Stephen is there. Stephen, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger. Morning, Eoin.
So are Villa staying up?
Yeah, it didn't look like it, did it, a couple of weeks ago? But I think it's looking pretty likely they will now. Just look at the last round of fixtures there. Watford's gone away to Arsenal. To be honest, I actually thought, I saw a few people on social media last night saying that they didn't think Arsenal were at the races last night. I thought Arsenal gave it a go. So whether they will give it another go for another game against Watford, it's a local derby. Their two training grounds are actually, I've been out there in Hertfordshire, their two training grounds are right beside each other. I'm sure there's a bit of rivalry there, and Arsenal won't want to lose to them on their last day of the season. I know they're not playing in front of the home supporters, but still, they want to finish off on a high note, and especially you don't want to be going into that FA Cup final in bad form. They'll want to go in off the back of a good result. So I think Arsenal will give it a go. So that's not good for Watford, who will need to at least win the game. And as for Aston Villa going to West Ham, West Ham are a tricky opposition over the last couple of weeks, and I think they'll be a tricky opposition for Manchester United tonight. So I wouldn't say that's exactly. I don't think West Ham are going to roll over either for Aston Villa, even though it is the last game of the season, and West Ham essentially don't need anything, even if they lose tonight. They should be still okay just by virtue of the goal difference. But I thought last night's game was interesting. I've seen Arsenal over a couple of games. Myself and Brian Brian Kerr did the North London Derby a couple of weeks ago. And I thought the interesting thing about Arsenal was that against the teams, the two big results they got in recent weeks were against Manchester City and Liverpool. And the two interesting defeats we've seen were against Aston Villa and Tottenham. And Aston Villa and Tottenham really sat in against Arsenal, made Arsenal come at them, and they had to attack and try and unlock their defences, and they weren't able to do that. Whereas against Manchester City and Liverpool, two sides that went and attacked them, they were able to hit them on the break, and that's how they won those games. So you'd have to say fair play to Dean Smith and perhaps to John Terry as well. I don't know how much the darling of Chelsea has to do with tactics around Aston Villa, but they played that game really well last night, and I thought they were toast a few weeks back. I thought they looked a bit...
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't look like a team that were fighting or willing to put the fight in, and they certainly looked like that last night. And Jack Grealish, who I've been critical of, I think he's a frustrating player to watch at times. I keep hearing people saying that he's the most fouled player in the Premier League. Well, he's the most fouled player in the Premier League because he would be knocked over by a feather. But I thought last night he put in a really good shift. He got back and he worked hard with his defence, and he nearly set up a second goal, which Keenan Davis should have put away. And I'm sure Dean Smith will have a word with him about that. But well done, Aston Villa, and I think they've given themselves a really fighting chance of staying up. And as you both were talking about earlier on, I think it's important to have a club like Aston Villa in the Premier League. They're a massive club, massive stadium, big fan base, a bit like Leeds United as well. It's great to have Leeds back. I'm hoping the teenage football supporter in me is hoping for a 90s revival and hopefully see Nottingham Forest come back through the playoffs as well. But look, congratulations, Aston Villa. I think it's looking likely they're going to stay up.
No chickens being counted here, I've got to say. What about Manchester United? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's in our own legs, he said. Proving that you can live in Manchester for as long as you want, but you're still going to mangle the language from time to time.
He's doing well, I think, with the media stuff. I think he's doing well in how he kind of bats away the tough questions he was asked last week. I spoke to you guys last week about the FFP stuff, and he just said he wasn't interested in discussing it. The David De Gea stuff, he's not really dealing with or tackling. Manchester United, yeah, that's a massive disappointment for them to not get into the FA Cup final. They would have liked the trophy, I'm sure, at the end of the season. I think it's weird with United because when they go really badly, everybody's in with the brick bats against Solskjaer, and then when everything's going really well, they're getting praised to the nines. And I think we need to find a bit of middle ground here with Manchester United when we assess them at the end of the season. I think it's crucial that they get into the Champions League. I don't think it's anyway a gimme that they'll qualify through the Europa League because, of course, they're playing LASK before they then face Wolves in the semi-final. And I wouldn't be I wouldn't be backing United against Wolves in that game, and it's not exactly guaranteed they get through in the Premier League as well in the top four. That's a tough game against West Ham tonight. David Moyes going to Old Trafford, I think he's going to want a result. And as I've said, West Ham are playing well. They've got some tricky players up front. I think Mikel Antonio, if he plays as the leading centre forward behind the attacking three, I think he'll give Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof a hard time. Victor Lindelof struggled with 5'8", 5'9" Michael Obafemi. So up against Mikel Antonio is going to be interesting. And they got some other good players, Jared Bowen on the right wing as well, who they brought in from Hull City in January. He could be worth up to £25 million, that transfer in the end. But he's going to be hard for them to handle as well, depending who they play at left back, because we know they got problems there with injuries and stuff. So I think there's going to be I think West Ham are going to go and try and get a result tonight, and I don't think it's going to be interesting to see how United react to that poor result at the weekend, and whether Sergio Romero will be starting goal as well. I think he'll be a little bit annoyed that he was their cup goalkeeper for the whole season, and then he was dropped for the semi-final at the weekend. I think he'll be unhappy about that. Perhaps might have a point to prove then, and so yeah, it'll be interesting if he drops. Listen, if I was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at this stage, and look, there's so much media attention around him, I think maybe it's a little bit I think it's a bit over the top, perhaps. I think maybe people are going in a little bit too hard, but maybe it's time for Solskjaer just to say to De Gea, look, take a holiday, go away for the rest of the season and come back refreshed. Sergio Romero isn't too bad of a goalkeeper, is he?
I'm not sure. I think it's a high wire act that he's got to get right, because if he gets it wrong, that asset has disappeared, and if he gets it right, then suddenly they'll be able to sell him at some point down the line, or maybe he gets back to the type of form that suggests that he's worth persisting with. One last point for you. I want to talk briefly about James McCarthy. You've been keeping an eye on him recently.
Yeah, very impressed, and I know Brian Kerr was very impressed last week as well. We covered that Manchester United Crystal Palace game down at Selhurst Park, and look, he's broken the 30 appearance mark this season. It's the first time since in 5 seasons he's done that. The last time was with Everton. He made 34 appearances, so he's up to 32. I know not every single one has been a start. He's been used, not too often by Roy Hodgson. Regards to full 90-minute appearances, but you could understand that because of the amount of injuries that he's had. He had that knee injury and the hamstring injury a couple of seasons ago, and of course then that double leg fracture, that horrific leg injury he got when at Everton. And Roy Hodgson took a chance on him during the summer. He said, look, he wanted to bring him to Crystal Palace. He felt there was still a good player there that he could work with, and I think he was the best manager maybe that James McCarthy could find at this moment in time. I know from interviewing the likes of Stephen Kelly and Damien Duff when they were playing for Hodgson at Fulham, they said he's probably the best coach that they play for, like somebody who as just a football coach. So I think somebody like that for James McCarthy at this stage in his career is just perfect. But the couple of games I've watched him in against Manchester United particularly, I thought he was really good. He's one of those players that, he gets... some players or some supporters can be critical because he's not that kind of flash midfielder that you'll see popping up in game and coming up with fancy assists and that kind of stuff. He's just one of those kind of grafters in midfield. He's very good at tackling, winning back possession from opposition teams, and then releasing another teammate from midfield who then will generate the attack. And Stephen Kenny has spoken highly of him in recent weeks. I did an interview with James McCarthy after they played against Leicester City for Off the Ball last November, and he was quite reluctant at that stage to talk about coming back to play for Ireland, but that was understandable.
Yeah.
I've seen in recent interview he said he's superstitious, so he was reluctant to, I suppose, talk about it while he was still trying to get back to full fitness. He's there now. He's already said himself, he's hinted at coming back to play for Ireland. I think he could be he's 29 years of age. He's at the peak of his playing powers for a midfielder. I think he could be a really key player for Stephen Kenny, whether he plays a midfield 3 or a midfield 2, a double pivot. I think James McCarthy is going to be a really important player for us, and I think it's good news for Ireland that he's back playing well for Crystal Palace.
Stephen, good stuff. Thanks very much for that. That's Stephen Doyle, one of our Premier League commentators. That game tonight, where Liverpool will be officially handed the trophy, is live on Off the Ball. Brian Kerr alongside Nathan Murphy. Kickoff is at 8:15.